Please hold while I confirm your passcode. Thank you. Your passcode is confirmed. When you hear the tone, you will be the 19th person to join the meeting.
But I just wanted to share a little bit, some exciting news that we have, just so I can keep everyone updated. In January, we launched a new Women's Choice Award category for Best Hospitals and Patient Experience for Obstetrics. This was supported by a campaign in partnership with The Bump, with over 1.5 million impressions, along with social media, blogging, and pregnancy newsletter outreach. TheBump.com has over 48 million page views per month and just shy of 3 million unique visitors in a month. Tomorrow, January 31st, we're also excited to share that Women's Certified will announce the new Women's Choice Award for Best Hospitals and Heart Care. This national launch will take place in partnership with the Heart Truth, a national red dress campaign sponsored by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, and this is done to raise awareness among women about heart disease. Please also mark your calendars because our next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, April 3rd at noon Eastern Time. The topic for this webinar in April will be real data, real results to drive excellence in the patient experience. Lastly, I just want to share with everyone that I'm here to support you as an extension to your team. If you feel that you're not fully maximizing your award program, please be sure to reach out to me. Let's set up a strategy call, and that way we can fully leverage all the complementary new programs, resources, and services that Women's Certified has to offer you. At this time, I'm ready to introduce Celia Passy, who will be handling the webinar.
Thank you, Susan. Hi, everyone. It's great to be back with you. We got tremendous feedback from our first webinar. So if you did not get a chance to do that, you have an opportunity to go back to a link, and that'll be in our next newsletter. And hopefully you're not only reading those newsletters, but sharing them, passing them along, and sending to Susan names of everyone who you want to receive it, because the information on there is valuable. So let's get going. The first and the most important thing is just quickly, let's understand, this is what we're going to do in the next 30 minutes. Let's understand how to make an immediate assessment of your healthcare facility. And remember, all of this impacts your bottom line, right? How to engage employees to take ownership of the patient experience. Here's some simple strategies to exceed the patient experience. I want to talk to you a little bit about how to raise some communication standards. And we'll talk a little bit about some simple things that you can do. Please take notes on some of these things, because what I'm hoping you'll do is you'll be able to capture some golden nuggets throughout the presentation, and you can bring that into your, into your meetings, in your training, in your leadership conversations, in your staff team meetings. And so every time you just introduce one or two things that could make an impact, it really does help everyone in, enhance the standard of quality care for your patients. And also internally, it helps everybody feel better about the organization. And then if I get a chance, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in detail probably in the next one, or we're going to just do a webinar just on how to drive loyalty. And I have some exciting stuff happening in our company to support loyalty programs. So we'll do that, but I'm going to give you some hints on how you could start that immediately. So Women's Radar. 80% of messages we send and receive are done without ever saying a word. So what that really means is that when you have a woman who walks into your your facility, it's not just the experience that they're having by what they see and feel. It's everything. It's compounded 100 times fold, because women typically start making an impression, or they start making an assessment, in a sense, of your facility even way before she shows up at the door. So it's the experience that she has online. It's, it's as she's driving to your facility. It's the signage to find the parking. It's the, it's driving up and looking at the landscaping. It's, it's the valet. It's the people that are loitering around. It's things that are, that she's experiencing, that she's starting to make immediate assessments about the quality of care and the quality of the brand. So we have to remember that the Women's Radar is very, very in tune with the details, much more than a male. all right? So men are very focused on really where he has to go and what his objective is there. But women take a total experience from all the things that impact her visually, as well as the verbal. So very important to remember that we speak, most of our language is spoken nonverbally, and so that means it means a lot because everything that she experiences from the time she drives up is going to impact her decision. And remember, her decision is always, not only is she going to feel more comfortable doing business with your hospital, but is she going to feel comfortable enough to recommend you? And that's always a big deal. You know, today people talk about customer satisfaction. You know, you have the J.D. Power Awards, you have companies talking about all the time about customer satisfaction. But tell me, you probably experience this like I do. You may like a product, you might love a service, you may love a doctor, but you may not feel confident enough to recommend them, right? Because they may be doing just enough to keep you happy, but not enough to recommend the product. So there's a big difference in her mindset between customer satisfaction, or you'll call it patient satisfaction, and the propensity to recommend. So what drives recommendations among women is a trusted experience, one that she's willing to put her reputation on the line and share with her family and friends because she's attaching her name and her reputation to your brand. And that's going to take you going the extra mile. So let's talk a little bit about how we get there. The first thing is you want to take control of her first impression, okay? Always make sure that there's enough lighting, signage, security. You want her to always feel safe and secure. I was talking to one doctor who said that, you know, by the time the patient got to me, they were stressed. Because there were things that in the environmental part of the building, you know, there was some construction going on. They had to walk through in a different area. They weren't feeling safe. They said by the time the patient got to me, their blood pressure was elevated. So I hear that a lot. Make sure that the experience is one that just makes them feel warm and comforting from the minute that they step foot on your premises. You want to keep your grounds well lit and well kept. I mean, that's really important, and I'm sure your environmental people will benefit from learning about that. One of the things we thought about is, what about if you have a navigation map on your system, especially if you have a large hospital system? You know, make sure that, you know, people know where they're going. It's kind of a directional, like when we go to the mall, you know, when we're looking for things. You know, where are the directionals when you walk into hospitals? I don't see them a lot, and I thought that that's a nice thing that you guys might want to start considering incorporating is better directionals. The other thing, and probably very, very, very important, is your greeter. These are your directors of first impressions. So if you have greeters, these are people who, you know, will check security when people walk in. They want to know who they are. Make sure that you understand the importance of that, because that is their first touch point to you, to a person. And so I like to call these people directors of first impression. Sometimes they're a security guard, sometimes they're volunteer, and sometimes they are people who are assigned to do just that. I don't care who they are. These people need to be trained on what it's going to take to make their first impression within the organization a great one. So you want to train them on proper protocol. That's very, very important. People underestimate the importance of training your greeters. And people need to greet people with a smile. You have to start, you have to be patient. You know, we underestimate, I always say when you look at the word hospital, it's hospitality. That's where hospitality came from. So we need to think about it in terms of serving this guest in our premises. And the best way to do it is to do it right at every touch point. So create a family, a friendly, and of course it is a family friendly, because today you're not just serving the woman and her husband or the man, or you're serving the whole family, okay? And then volunteers, make sure that they're included in training, and so is security, so that you absolutely have that in place. And some of the things that you can include in your training is, you know, eye contact and smiling, and having a script, a very basic script. welcome to so-and-so hospital. Welcome, how may we help you today? Hello, my name is Delia Passy. How may I help you today? I mean, give them some protocol that they can use, that they're comfortable with, and is easy for them to incorporate, and make sure you do some checks on that, mystery checks, so this way you make sure that everyone's very consistent. Controlling the experience, again, every employee owns the patient experience, and that's one thing that we had a webinar back probably a year ago where we had a guest in from Harvard, and we talked about the trust experience and how people have to they have to feel good about the brand, they have to feel good about where they work, and that translates to a great patient experience. It actually, trickles down. But more importantly is what you can do now to take every employee and let them own that patient experience. So there are very, very basic things you can do there. First of all is to let them understand it. First of all, they need to understand that every patient that they go by, every other employee, every guest in their facility is somebody who needs to be welcomed, and they have to be warm with them, and they need to stop and give them navigation, or if you see somebody looking like they don't know where they are, to take a second to stop and not always be rushing by. So, we need to do. Then the other thing, too, is talk about things like your doctors and your nurses where, come and take a seat when they're talking to the patient. Even if they spend the exact amount of time, it's perceived as a better experience. And then there's something called the exit conversation, and the exit conversation is what you want them to say to the patient when they're leaving your facility to make the greatest impact about what your mission is and how you care about the patient experience. So it's what is it that you stand for, and what would you want, the final words, what would you want them to take away? And think about the takeaways. What do you want them to think of when they leave your facility? When I'm at Whole Foods, perfect example, going outside of your industry, right at the checkout, there's a vision statement. Here's what we stand for. So you can't help but exit that store with keeping top of mind, the 2 or 3 things that company stands for. What are you doing to make sure that your patients leave with that information top of mind? And remember, every employee should be and could be your brand ambassador. So encourage, people to just do their own mystery shops. And I said encourage your patients. It's actually encourage your team. Engage employees to take ownership and set expectations and outcomes. Include them in the conversations when you're having your planning sessions on how to increase patient satisfaction. Include I keep on using the word patients, but include your employees. Bring them into the conversation. Let them give you ideas of things they can do. The more they do that, the more they'll take ownership, and the more they'll be willing to participate and really see that it happens. The 10-15-20-foot rule is one that we incorporate in any service-based business that we train. And as many of you know, at Women Certified, we're leaders in training on how to increase market share and loyalty among women. We do this for multiple industries. And one of the things I always say, the most important thing is this 10-15-20-foot rule. And actually, I could break it down to it should be the 5, 10, 15-foot rule. I brought it a little bit wider here because I wanted you to understand that in a big environment, when you are walking within 10 feet of people, you need to make eye contact, smile, nod, approach her, greet her, ask if she needs assistance. If she's within 15 feet, you nod, you smile, you nod, and you might even say hello, welcome, or just in a nice way so she knows that you're being connected to. And then 20 feet as well, because women are amazing. When we do our market research, we find that women within 20 to 25 feet, they are gathering information about how friendly you are. And it's kind of like what you say to your team. If you were to have guests come into your home and let's say you were sitting in the living room and guests walked into your home, would you just sit there and not get up and greet them? Or if they were in your living room and you walked home after a long day's work, would you just, open the front door and walk right by them and walk to the kitchen to get yourself something to drink? No, you wouldn't. You'd stop and greet them. So why is it that people are so impersonal when it comes to being within their corporate environment, which is really their home, away from home? So they need to start treating it that way, and people will respond. And definitely do mystery shops there, because we see a lot of people who, whenever we go out and people don't know who we are, we rarely get the level of engagement and smiles that we need to get. So definitely make sure that you're engaging them in that process as much as possible. And we're going to be talking about some best practices coming up, like smile reward programs and things like that we're starting to create to help you make it easier for people to really understand the power of being friendly. You know why? Because nice matters, and it does matter, especially to your bottom line. There's a slide here that says, tell her what to tell. And it's not just tell her, it's tell anyone what to tell. And what that means is that what we find, and we tested this in the auto industry, is that when a customer has to fill out a customer satisfaction form, in this case it's your HCAP scores, right? It depends on how they fill that out. Many times you want to figure out, how do we get them to understand that we do the things? So many times hospitals will say to us, well, we don't understand why they scored us poorly on cleanliness when they see us cleaning the room, or we make a point to do our care board, and we tell them about all the things that we communicate so effectively, and yet we're not getting good communication scores. I mean, when they break it down, they're always scratching their head as to why, and it's because the patient needs to be told what to tell. Okay, so and I can go into more detail. We don't have a lot of time today, but maybe we could do something a little bit more deeper into this one, and I'm happy to spend time one-on-one with any of our hospitals. But here's some basic ideas. So when a patient comes to your room, is there a letter from the CEO talking about, what you take pride in and why you've been, look, all of you are award-winning hospitals on this line. You're all part of our network of extraordinary hospitals that women would highly recommend. So are you sharing these very important things with the patient as they enter and kind of get seated and get comfortable, whether they're waiting to be assigned a room or whether they're waiting in the emergency room? Shouldn't they know about you and what you stand for? Is there signage somewhere that people could understand what your vision is and your mission and your commitment to them every day? Tell them when you're cleaning their room, does the environmental people, do they stop and say, well, we've just cleaned your room. Is there anything more we can do today for you? And just make sure that they know that you were there and you've addressed them. And it's not just cleaning, because people don't always remember that. It's more, what else can we do? Was there anything in particular we can do for you? Tell them when they leave your facility, did they get a letter from your CEO following their visit to go over, again, the key points of how we take pride in our communication training, how we do this, our cleanliness is, bar none. We do this with, do you talk about it and tout it? So when those survey questions come in, it'll be a nice, gentle reminder of all the great things that you stand for as a hospital. So basically, you need to think of ways to tell them what you want them to tell. Now, I'm telling you, I'm showing you some stuff that's done in hospitality industry and the hotel industry, but these are the type of things that some of you already do, like this room today was cleaned today by. Wouldn't it be nice to have a place where they could sign their name and actually share with them when it was, or keep a nice little, reminder, today, twice we were in today, what else can we do? Would you like this or that? Just to make sure that they recognize it. There are so many hospitals that are going green and doing all these great things. Are there things in the room to share with them, or information or literature that they could, read about while they're waiting or they're with you? There's so much you can do to seed information to the patient. Do whatever you can to make sure that the patient knows what you stand for and what you want them to take away. Now, what about if we went above and beyond? Because, if I were to tell you today, if I were to ask you, let's say you go to Nordstrom's, and Nordstrom spends all this time with you, and they serve you well. They find exactly the outfit you were looking for. They pack it up. They wrap it up nicely for you. You go home. Are you getting on the phone with all your friends and going, oh, I had the best experience today at Nordstrom? Well, what they do? Well, I just bought a suit, but they were really nice. No, we don't do that. We don't get on the phone and find an excuse to tell somebody when it's just a good experience, because we expect a good experience, But when do we tell people? We tell people when we wow them, when we do something unexpected, when we surprise and delight. So when we are, and I'm actually going to go forward one more because this is what I wanted to share with you. It's when we surprise and delight. It's when we do something that they did not expect. So could you imagine, and some of you are probably smiling saying, well, this is not going to happen here, but maybe you can think of little ways to make a difference. So look at, could you imagine walking into a hospital room and getting a tray with everything nice and neat information and a little bag with all your goodies in it, and maybe you can get a local company. There are so many companies that will literally give you samples that they want to get in the hands of customers, of really fabulous, soaps and creams and so forth. And so what if you packaged it a little bit more? I mean, hotels have been able to do it in such a cost-effective way, probably cheaper than most hospitals can, and yet it makes an impact because it makes a difference to the patient. So think about, what can we do? What are the little things we can do to just surprise and delight them, okay? And those are the things that matter. It's taking a patient on a rainy day and opening an umbrella and walking them, with an umbrella. It's doing the little things in the room and in the entire environment. I'll go back now. So here's just a recap. Controlling the conversation. Think of room cards. Think of a CEO letter. Think of commitment statements. Table 10 cards. So, when women and their families are eating at the table, in the cafeteria, what a great place for you to put those, make sure they know about that. A discharge packet, follow-up CEO letters. These are just some ideas of how you can continually tell them what to tell and what they're supposed to feel. We did a study where we asked women, we told women before they went into a facility that this company earned the Women's Choice Award. Well, sure enough, their perceived perception was better because they thought that other women loved it. So their perceived perception was better than if they weren't told that they had the award. So again, another place to use your award. Where the rubber meets the road is always when it comes to communication. You could do the most wonderful experience. You could go out of your way to create a Ritz-Carlton experience, and yet where the rubber meets the road, what matters most to them is how they're treated as a person. And how people are treated is two things. It's nonverbal and verbal communication. Most of the way we feel and perceive we are treated is based on all the basics of communication. Okay, everything from the holding of a door to the smile, the nonverbal, to the nod as we're walking by, to doctors pulling up a chair, giving us eye contact, not looking down while they're writing, but looking at us and actually taking it in. Most importantly, it's the effective listening. So when you're talking to a patient or a couple, they also have to understand, though, that men and women communicate differently. Very important. Men are more direct. They want you to get to the point. They want, their goal is how quickly can I get in and out of this facility and get back to where I'm going. Whereas for women, it's very much about the experience, that they will kind of get themselves absorbed into the moment and really focus on not the how quickly can I get out of here attitude, but more about how is it impacting them right this second. So women are more collaborative. They speak for every one word a man speaks, and women will speak 3 words to get the same point across, okay? So very important to understand that gender communications is key to effective communications. And again, most of you know that that's what we do. We have the best in the industry training on how to increase patient satisfaction through gender training. This is part of it, but there's an entire 2-hour course on gender communication, which I hope some of you will consider taking or including in some of your strategies for this year and next. So here's some very basic things you can bring back to your team. We talked about the sit down. That's important. Grab a stool. Have the stool somewhere in the room where a doctor can grab that and sit down. We found that it's very interesting. We've had female doctors tell us that they can sit at the edge of a bed pretty comfortably with both a male or a female, but males can't. They're not as comfortable, male doctors, sitting at the edge of, let's say, a female bed. Women actually tell us that they're uncomfortable being looked down upon when they're laying down in a bed, okay? We've also done tremendous studies for the mattress industry. We do a lot there, and we can tell you that women are far more uncomfortable being in a laying down position when especially a male is looking over them. It's just not, it just triggers levels of discomfort and anxiety. So the more you can let them understand how this impacts them, the better. Eye contact, 60-40 rule. Always give the female 60% of the eye contact. Practice active listening skills. Paraphrase back to her, because if you learn to paraphrase back to her and clarify, you're going to find that also the compliance for medications and usage and how they viewed the experience where we're given directions is going to absolutely stick more with her. When people take the time to paraphrase back to us, we tend to naturally feel like we were heard, okay, that we were understood. And there's a golden phrase. Let me make sure I understand. What a golden phrase that is, to just make sure that the patient was heard. And don't assume, okay, because what happens is patients tell us, women tell us especially, that they assume that they got it right and they didn't because they weren't listening. Number one issue with women when it comes to gender-based communications is they're not listening to me. They did not hear me. They didn't hear me correctly. So you could avoid so many problems if they just learn effective communications. Gaining her trust, respect her as a decision maker. Remember, she is the chief medical officer for the household, for the community. She is the decision maker for her family and she's the sandwich generation and for her extended family. So make sure you understand that you should give her the respect she deserves. With women, it's comforting, it's collaborative, so recognize, repeat, and support is something we train on. Make it personal, use her name. We'll go into more detail during our training on how to do that. Reference past successes with other patients. She needs to know she's not alone. Women are very collaborative again, so the more she understands how other women have dealt with this or other patients have experienced certain things, it makes her more comfortable itself. And remember, and I've said this in our other previous webinars, when you meet the needs of women, you exceed those of men. So if you make everything I'm telling you with women your standard, men will be absolutely delighted. Rethinking your strategy. Women are your referral machines, okay? She will refer you for every 10 times a man will refer you. She will refer you on average 26 or 27, depending on whichever research you read. So she is a referral network, and so learning to gain her trust and her confidence and her loyalty is very important. And you have a big opportunity with women. So look at all of the services within your organization that cater to her, whether it's your breast center, whether it's your obstetrics, whether it's your children's, whether it's your cardiology, whether it's your bone health area, whatever it is. When women are with you, you have a phenomenal opportunity to surprise and delight her so that she will absolutely be confident attaching her name to that recommendation. And the people on this phone, the hospitals on the phone, you are the elite hospitals. Only the elite hospitals have received our award. You're the only ones invited to participate. And understand that what we want to do is take you from, good to great, help you get there one more step. So we want to understand how we can do that better for you. So your feedback when you're talking to Susan, and we're going to open it up for questions now. Any of your feedback is important to us so we can help you. But their referral training and referral network, teaching your doctors and your nurses how to actually ask for a referral, your staff and so forth it's an art and a science, and it could take, we've done it for the financial industry. We actually have a 2-day training on it. So it's not something that we can train in 5 minutes, but we can tell you that it will naturally occur if you do all of the things we talked about. You'll start seeing that people will be more inclined to recommend you if they're treated right throughout the course of the program, and then or the course of their stay. But there are ways you can actually make it happen, and we can talk more about that maybe at a later time. So what immediate changes? What I'd like you to take away today is think about, remember we talked about in the beginning, what are the 3 golden nuggets? What can you do immediately? What were the favorite things that you heard today? What is it? Whether it was 1, 2, 3, or a dozen things. But please write them down now. Take 1 second because they will disappear. Remember, 90% of what you hear will go away, okay, pretty quickly unless you reinforce it. Learning is a process. It's a behavioral modification. And the only way that training becomes activated is through behavior modification. So you need to, if you want to make these changes, write down what it is that is going to help you in, communicate these opportunities to your staff, put it in an email, share it, talk about it, and then ask people to then, one way to do it is to bring it to the team, let them engage on maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things that we talked about today, and then on your monthly or weekly meetings, bring those 3 things back up and ask them what kind of progress they've made, okay? So that's the way you make change permanent, is through ongoing behavioral modification, and that is a process, and it's a collective effort. It takes time. So I will open it up. I think I've figured out how to do this. I'm going to unmute *97. We've spent our 30 minutes. Thank you so much. Let's see if there's any questions. I do have another 5 minutes, so let's see if I get this right.
All guests have been unmuted.
Okay, so now everyone has an opportunity to ask a question, and we completely unmuted so we could hear everything. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Hi, this is Judy from Bakersfield Heart Hospital in Bakersfield, California. And I was wondering if there's, I'm looking through the appointment, and I'm looking for a place for me to find your slides. I'm not seeing that. Are they available somewhere to us?
Yes, they're going to be, we're going to actually have a link, so you're going to be able to access the webinar through the link. So it'll be sound and slides.
Okay, and you'll send that link out via an email?
And Susan's going to be sending it. Actually, it'll be out. She will follow up, not today, but she's going to be able, because we need, I think it's about 24 hours or so to get the recording. As soon as she has that, she will send it out, but it will also be in our newsletter that's coming out in about 2 weeks, or not even, about, maybe 10 days from now. You'll have the newsletter at the beginning of around the first or second week in February, and it will have a link for that recording. So just in case you missed the newsletter, the email, it'll also be in the newsletter.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And by the way, you're one of our new hospitals, so thank you for joining us. It's great to have you aboard. And for all of our new heart hospitals, we hope to help you celebrate this month. We're very excited about that. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Okay, and you sure no more questions? Anything you heard? Okay, so let me just remind you a couple things. One is that if you're not, if you don't have all of your team signed on to our newsletter, make sure Susan has a list of all the emails that need to be on the newsletter. Please contact us how we could further support you. We have an amazing Marketing to Women's team here, from creative support to best practices, strategy, training. You need to call us. You need to find out more about what we can do to help you. And remember, this is all part of your partnership agreement with us. So please maximize our, what we can do to help your success. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed being with you today, and we'll look forward to speaking with you very, very soon. And, of course, sign up for the next webinar. Thank you, and have a terrific day.